America never ceases to amaze me with how absolutely corrupt its system is. I mean, from top to bottom, bottom to top, and everywhere in between. It's just built on absolute corruption. So in this picture, you see two Pennsylvania judges who, in my opinion, should be removed from the bench and probably will be after this situation, whose names are Mark Chavarella and Michael Conahan. And these judges were ordered to pay a total of $200 million after it got discovered that they got kickbacks for sending kids to jail for profit. And what have we told y'all about this in prison industrial system in the private prisons? That they are really in it for the money. That's where most of the money is. And I'm going to piggyback off of something someone else has said. I won't be surprised if a lot of those kids were black. It wouldn't surprise me in the least bit. Two Pennsylvania judges who orchestrated a scheme to send children to for-profit jails in exchange for kickbacks were ordered to pay more than $200 million to hundreds of children who fell victim to their crimes. U.S. District Judge Christopher Connor awarded $106 million in compensatory damages and $100 million in punitive damages to nearly 300 plaintiffs in a long-running civil suit against the judges. In what came to be known as the Kid for Cash scandal, Mark Chavarella and another judge, Michael Conahan, shut down a county-run juvenile detention center and accepted $2.8 million in illegal payments from the builder and co-owner for two for-profit lockups. That's why I keep saying whenever you see a lot of these prisons getting built up, a lot of times they're not putting in the hardened criminals. They're putting in these kids that probably most likely didn't do anything, but because the kids ain't really going to know the law like that, they just throw up in there anyway because they know there's money that can be made. These private prisons in America are some of the most financially stable investments that America has in its establishment. As a matter of fact, I think America, the U.S. in particular, has the most prisons out of any nation in the world. And America, if you look at the size and population of the U.S., is very small in size compared to a lot of other nations. But we have the most prisons and have the most people locked up in those prisons. And a lot of the people that's locked up in there don't even or should not even be there. Then you got some people that should be there. Quiet as it's kept. Let me continue. Chiavarella, who presided over juvenile court, pushed a zero tolerance policy that guaranteed large numbers of kids will be sent to PA Child Care in its sister facility, Western PA Child Care. Chavarella ordered children as young as 8 to detention, many of them first-time offenders convicted of petty theft and other minor crimes. The judge often ordered youth he had found delinquent to be immediately shackled, handcuffed, and taken away without giving them a chance to say goodbye to their families. Chavarella and Conahan abandoned their oath and breached their public trust, Connor wrote Tuesday in his explanation of the damages award. Their cruel and despicable actions victimize a vulnerable population of young people, many of whom were suffering from emotional issues and mental health concerns. Chavarella ruled with breathtaking arrogance and an unfathomable disregard of due process, Connor wrote. Chavarella was known for a zero-tolerance approach to juveniles, and his sentencing decisions were often capricious. One 16-year-old in his courtroom for driving the wrong way down a one-way street was sentenced to 11 months in prison because that was the number of buttons the offender had on her shirt, according to Connor's decision. Another juvenile who went in for a release hearing was instead sentenced to an additional 8 months because the team picked the wrong sports team. Several of the youths who were sentenced by Chavarella or Conahan have since died of drug overdoses or suicide. After the scheme was uncovered, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court threw out 4,000 juvenile convictions entered between 2003 and 2008. Think about that. They said 4,000 juvenile convictions from '03 to '08. So over the span of 5 years, these two convicted 4,000 teenagers for some BS. That's a lot of youth between the ages of, they said starting at the age of 8, as some as young as the age of 8. Che Varela is serving a 28-year prison sentence. Conahan, who was sentenced to more than 17 years in prison, was released to home confinement in 2020 with 6 years left on his sentence because of the COVID pandemic. I think he should have still been there, honestly. And honestly, if you ask me, they didn't get nearly as enough time as they should have. I say they should go through some of the, well, not even some of the entire ringer as to what they put these kids through. I think the saddest part about the story is that they said some of their victims, because that's basically what they are, died, from emotional distress and would probably suicide and drug overdoses because of what these two right here did to them. These two monsters that you see in this picture ruined these kids' lives forever. They will, for those who are still alive, will forever be traumatized. And not only that, but their families will be traumatized by this as well. Like, that is crazy. I almost want to see if a documentary could be made about this. And the crazy part about it is these are not the only two who engage in this type of activity. They aren't the only ones. That's why when we see these judges give these light sentences to people, or they give the wrong sentences to people, or they do over sentencing and whatnot, they're just as corrupt. And what's even scary about it is they aren't even some of the worst judges out there. This is just scraping, the tip of the iceberg. This is surface level. Makes you wonder what's at the core of all of this. These two collected millions of dollars on the false imprisonment of kids. Like, really let that register. Like that one where they saying that they sentenced 1 to 11 months because that was how many buttons was on her shirt. 11 buttons. So, there you go, 11 months. And like they said, the punishment did not fit the crime. They said some of it was like petty theft or something that could be chalked up even to a minor misdemeanor, and they were sentencing them like they committed a felony. Meanwhile, you got these chuckleheads out here actually committing felonious crimes, and they get slaps on the wrist. Sometimes they don't even do any type of jail time at all. And that 4,000 convictions that they had to look, that's crazy. 4,000. That's a lot. Over the span of 5 years. It's almost as if any teenager that came through their door, they already just knew or just was prepared to label them guilty. But I'm glad that they have to pay all of that money back. I hope they didn't spend all of it. And even if they did, oh well, let their lives be in ruin like they did to them kids. It's exactly what they deserve. They actually deserve a whole lot more. But we know there's a system in place that at the end of the day, when they did what they did, it's still going to protect them. It's still going to protect people like the two that you see on your screen. These are your corrupt judges right here. And you can tell they got a kick out of it too. They probably got a good kick out of this and a good laugh of sending these kids to prison that weren't even supposed to be there. At the most, they should have did some community service, maybe pay a fine or two. That's it. But to send them sending them to prison because he picked the wrong sports team or the team that you didn't like, so you're going to send him to prison for that? That's crazy. And that was just 2 out of the thousands that they convicted. It makes you wonder what other ridiculous things they came up with to have a reasoning to want to send these kids to prison, even though there was no good reason at all. Some buttons in a sports team, if you don't get out of here with that crap. But that's who they have. That is who they have in power. And these judges, they get sworn in and voted in. That's why it's very important that if you are a person that's voting out here, you need to know who these people are. You need to do a thorough examination of them. And it also makes me wonder too, because it says they got kickbacks. Who was paying them? Who were they getting these kickbacks from? That's who we need to find out who was doing that, because as far as I'm concerned, they're just the face of it. What organizations or companies were out there giving these two money to send these kids to jail? Most likely the prisons that were being built, because they said they were building these prisons, but they had to fill them up. They didn't want their investment to go to waste. So my guess is the prisons were the ones that were giving them the kickbacks. The prisons that were being, to be occupied by these unsuspecting teens. That's my guess. But y'all let me know, who do you think was giving them the kickbacks? Do you think it was do you think it's my theory? Do you think it was the prisons giving them the kickbacks, or do you think that it was other entities? But I'm going to go ahead and end the video on that note right here. Y'all let me know what you think down in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe. If you are new, be sure to hit that bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video, go live. Have your notifications turned on your mobile devices as well. The links will be down in the description. I will talk to you in the next one.